Are we good to go?
Yes, we're
Okay.
getting some comments saying hi and they can see you, so
Okay,
we can go
good.
live.
Very good. Thank you. Sorry, folks. We had some technical difficulties and we had to switch the YouTube link. That's why I sent you a different link. Apologize. Welcome to the latest episode of Chai and Chat at India Currents. I am Vijay Rajvaidya. Most of you probably know me, and I'm your host today. And we are also joined today. By the way, before that, we are talking about what are we talking today? We are talking today about how the recent crash of the Air India flight in Ahmedabad affects Indian diaspora. So we are not per se talking about just the accident. We are talking about how it has created some things over here in our minds. I mean, we are going to discuss that, how it affects us. So I'm joined by an aviation industry expert, Akshat Rajvaidya. He's a sales director at Embraer, the world's largest aircraft manufacturer, third largest aircraft manufacturer company, not the largest, and a graduate from aerospace in graduate in aerospace from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. If you haven't figured out by now why our last names are same, so let me tell you, he's my son. Okay. It is because he's my son, and he developed interest in aviation pretty early in his childhood and actually followed through it. So this is where we are together. Now, before I start, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. Um, uh, Tell you some housekeeping instructions. We want you to participate in this conversation. So right away, please put your questions, comments in the chat, and we will try to get to as many as possible. There could be slight delays in our getting to your questions, so please be patient. Okay, and please introduce yourself in the comments because we want to know. We will love seeing you, where you are joining from. Please keep comments respectful and on topic. We want this to be a positive space for everyone. Don't forget to hit that heart button if you are enjoying the conversation. And feel free to share this particular live session with your friends who might be interested in talking to me and Akshat. We are all going. We're gonna go. We'll be going for 30 minutes. So settle in. Now, first question: why are we having this conversation? Why should the community be interested or concerned? And when I say community, I'm meaning the Indian diaspora over here in the US. So let's address this we part first. I want to talk about that. And you know that for the past 38 years, India Currents has been dedicated to the Indian American community in California. We provide a platform for your voices and offer information vital to your unique needs. With this discussion, we are also working to bridge the gap, bringing your insights and concerns to the decision makers. And I'll define which decision makers I'm talking about here. So, now expanding on the other aspects of why are we having this conversation? When the news of this tragic crash of Air India Flight 171 on June 12 in Ahmedabad reached me, my thoughts immediately turned to my own experience on the first direct flight from San Francisco to New Delhi. Many years back, I was in fact a vocal advocate during the hearing conducted by Air India that sought to gauge demand for this very service. I had canvassed for this service for many, many years, and I was very much sensitive about it for many reasons. For many of us, one of the reasons right here, for many of us, a direct connection to Indian cities was essential. Why? Because it was especially so for parents and family members making their first journey from India to visit us. And it happened with me also. When my parents came in, they had not even gotten into an aircraft before. This was their first flight of their lives. And having them to switch and have a layover somewhere, that was very hard for me to manage and for them to manage too. Uh, well, direct flight would have helped. And this is what I had really talked about in my hearing also. So we truly count on these flights, the diaspora here. That is why this tragedy strikes such a deep chord. It is not just about an accident. It is about the trust, safety, and peace of mind we inherently place in that journey. So, in this episode of Chai and Chat, we want to explore our collective feelings about the career in the aftermath of this devastating event. Our conversation will focus specifically on your concerns and fears that may have arisen in the context of this accident. So, we will briefly discuss the accident, relying solely on available facts and avoiding any speculation beyond what is evident. So, with this, I would like to have our guest speak. So, I have a question for you, Akshat. What
hmm
happened on June 12th in Ahmedabad? And what do we know from the investigation so far?
good question. I'll address it with exactly the facts we have available right now.
Okay.
So what we know is from the preliminary investigation, which was already released, that on 12 June
Mhm.
2025 at 8:09 a.m. Universal Time, which is 1:39 p.m. India time, Air India Boeing 787, operating as flight number 171, as you said, crashed just after takeoff from Ahmedabad Airport, killing 241 of 242 passengers on board, along with 19 persons on the ground. There was a single sole survivor from the aircraft that is in serious condition.
Okay.
So we know from the preliminary report that the aircraft and the weather were under nominal or normal operating conditions for this flight. And the flight started its takeoff roll going down the runway at about 1:37 p.m. India time. The aircraft lifted off about 1 minute later and achieved a normal takeoff, what we would call a normal takeoff attitude. Now, we learned from the preliminary investigation that at 1:38 and 42 seconds, only 1 minute and 5 seconds after the actual liftoff of the airplane, the engine one and engine two, the only two engines on this aircraft, the fuel switches were transitioned from run, where the aircraft is in a normal condition, to cutoff, which essentially stops the fuel from flowing to both engines. They were shut off within about 1 second of each other. Then, only about 10 seconds later, the engine one switch was turned from the cutoff or off position to the run position. Now, because this aircraft has a lot of automation built into it, that action alone automatically started the engine restart sequence. So a lot of other things happened during this time. We don't need to focus on that yet. Then, 4 seconds after the number one switch was toggled, the number two switch was toggled from the cutoff to the run position.
Okay.
Now, very soon after that, only 9 seconds later, a pilot, we don't know which one of the pilots transmitted a quote, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday call, and then never transmitted again and never answered ATC requests after that. The investigation is ongoing, and we do hope it reveals the exact nature and cause of the crash. But during these times in my industry, it's common to come across many, many, many avenues of speculation from the media, from people, from social media personalities. Some have some unfounded correlation along with their speculation, but we don't want to be here to speculate. We just are presenting the facts. That's all we have right now is from the preliminary report, and discuss really more the experience and what it makes us feel like when a serious incident, especially one that hits a little bit closer to home, like this one has for all of us.
Right. Thank you so much. That is good. That sets the thing that what happened and how much we know. And as Akshat said, this is based on the official report that was released. Now, before I go any further, I want to put one question out there, Tane, for the audience, and I want them to think about it and write their comments. The question is, what makes you feel safe and secure when you step into the airplane? Think about it. I mean, you are stepping into, you take flights very often, and without any concerns, you get into that. Please think about why that happens and write your short answer in the comments. And Tanay, if you can have somebody just type this question up there also, that will be nice, so
Sure,
that
sure.
so that
We'll get that done.
they can
Yeah,
have it.
we'll
Yes.
get that done. Yeah.
And by the way, do we have any comments so far? If anything significant, then I would like to kind of hear that first
We
before I.
have a lot of people saying hello. People have tuned in from Chicago, from San Jose.
Okay.
Rakesh Kumar says totally agree about our needs for direct connection to the Indian cities from USA.
Mhm.
Um, Rakesh Kumar also has another question,
Mhm.
um, which I can. Do you want me to ask you right now?
Why don't you go ahead and do that? Because yeah,
Sure. So
it's a conversation. Mm.
he asks, are the fuel switches for both engines next to each other? Could both switch offs be accidental or intentional?
So I
Good.
will Akshat handle that. Yes.
Yeah, good question. The fuel switches are next to each other, to answer your question. They are directly beneath what we call the throttle, which controls the power of the engine. They're basically, think of two levers. Just below these two levers are where the fuel switches are located. Now, the second part of the question, could both switches offs be accidental or intentional? Both are possible. There is a safety in aviation. Everything we have has some kind of safety mechanism, backup mechanism. In aviation, in almost any airplane, and definitely any commercial airplane, the switch has what we call, it's a gated switch, which means that you have to do an action to achieve the outcome. So you have to pull the switch and then move it. Now, that makes the accidental action a little more complicated. There is a possibility that the switch failed, this gated mechanism failed, I should say, and that the switch toggled. We won't know these specifics right now. It'll be a long time before we figure it out. But when we look at accidents in aviation, we can't rule out anything just yet. So is it possible? Both are possible. And it will take some time to figure it out.
Yeah.
But from what I read in the preliminary report, the throttle quadrant, the section that houses a lot of switches and things related to the engine, was found very quickly after the switches were intact, the throttles were intact, and they have the data from all these switch positions from what we call the black box, which was also recovered and analyzed relatively quickly.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Because yes, so we said it, and as I said, that we are not going to go beyond this, what we already have in the preliminary report. How it works, that got explained, that how this thing actually functions. What are the possibilities? Yeah, everything is possible, but then we should wait for the investigation to come out with that, and that's quite nice. We will talk about this. So before I take any other question, I want to ask you, Akshat, who is investigating this accident in India?
Good question. Anytime there's a civil aviation accident, it's the responsibility of the government in that region. So in this case, the government of India, under the Ministry of Civil Aviation, their subsidiary, the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, is investigating. However, because the aircraft is a US-made aircraft by Boeing, the engines are from GE, which are also US, and there are components from a lot of places. Typically, other entities get involved. So in this case, the NTSB, National Transportation Safety Board of the US, was invited to participate, and they appointed their own technical advisor and a technical advisor from Boeing, the aircraft manufacturer itself, GE, the engine manufacturer, the FAA, the US Federal Aviation Administration, which is similar to the DGCA of India, and they will all assist. The FAA is involved because the FAA grants the certification for the aircraft in the US, and other bodies like DGCA recognize the FAA certification, so they don't need to certify it as well. They honor the certification that the FAA made. So they have a good group of advisors, and the Indian government will be leading the investigation with all these advisors.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you very much. So this kind of answers that the establishes the credentials of the investigation body. These are very highly qualified and experienced professionals. So this is being handled in a very professional and serious manner. So we want to go by what is being said in that. So Tanay, I would ask at this stage, I want to stop and I'll check again if there is any comment or anything so far.
Yes, we are actually getting quite a few comments in response to your question, which was what makes people feel comfortable when they're
It's
stepping
interesting.
onto a flight.
Yes. Yeah.
I can read out a few if you want.
So pick one by one. I would like to get to hear most of them, as a matter of fact, if I can.
Sure. I think one of the common recurring answers is performance data, performance history of how these flights have done in the past, I think. Another thing is safety and following strict maintenance procedures according to aviation regulations. So we have responses coming in, and then we also have a question. We have two questions. If you want, I can read them out to you.
So yes, before you read the question, I want Akshat to just weigh into this thing, because what I'm hearing here, Akshat, is that people are actually paying attention to the reputation. Obviously, they cannot exactly go with a very micro level or granular detail of what the maintenance things are happening and what costs are, but they go by the airlines. I'm assuming here that okay, this particular organization, how it does in the maintenance and other things. So that's kind of something to keep in mind, right? Because I'm also been on this flight all the time, and actually I wrote 2 articles about some of these aspects in 2019 and 2022 after these flights were started. And I felt that I had a stake in it because I was very vocal about and asking for it. So I did write. So just to note that, and yeah, so this is something. You have any comment, Akshat, on that? Where should they look? Where should they look for maintenance record or performance or this?
Yeah, that's a good point, and it's a very valid and good question. Often when big incidents happen in aviation, we start getting concerned with the support structure of aviation, maintenance being a very large part of that. Now, when it comes to the aircraft, as I mentioned before, they are certified. But not only is the aircraft certified, procedures are certified for the crew, but maintenance is also certified. So when you go to a facility, the facility has to be inspected and certified just like an airplane has to be. The personnel are certified to work on that specific airplane, and the parts that they put on are also certified and all trackable. Everything is traced with a part number. So when airlines do maintenance, they have to go to a certified maintenance facility. That's a requirement. And so they will look now at the certified maintenance facilities and all the logs. Everything that's done on an airplane is tracked and logged. Now, digitally, used to be by hand, but in the history of aviation, of modern commercial aviation, we have tracked and logged everything that we've done to an airplane. So they'll look at the log book and see everything that happened for this airplane. This airplane was not very old. It was built in 2013. That's relatively new in my industry for an airplane. Manufactured in May 2012, delivered and started operation in 13. But so it's a relatively new airplane, shouldn't need much maintenance, things like that. But anything that has been done will be tracked. They'll look at it, and I can't emphasize enough, it's all certified. So wherever they went, sometimes they do maintenance outside of their country because of availability of maintenance facilities. That's very common, but it is very heavily scrutinized in our industry. So it's a great question, but it's also one of the most thoroughly looked at components of accident investigation. So they're going to look at it very, very closely.
Yeah. So the question is that if people are feeling safe and good because they have some idea that the the operator, that means the airlines, is following those processes which are certified and to be followed accurately. There are no lapses in it. So those kind of things will become important in the minds. Then at this stage, I want to ask you that question that you were. Go ahead and tell us what is it.
Sure. We have a question from Anand Halbe.
Mhm.
Uh, is it normal to not be able to recognize voices on the CVR? And we have another question. Do you want me to say it right
No,
now or
first,
come it?
this question I didn't get
Mhm.
immediately. Akshat,
Yeah,
did you?
I understood. The question is it normal to not recognize the voices on the cockpit voice
Oh, the
recorder,
cockpit voice recorder.
CVR? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll make a comment on that. There's two distinctions. It's recognizing in terms of who is speaking,
Mhm.
which we do have the ability to, because when you're flying the airplane, you're wearing a mic, a headset with a mic, and when that mic is activated, the the data recorder will say which one is activated, either the captain or the first officer,
Oh,
where they're
that's
sitting.
why how you know that.
Now, if you can distinguish them just by listening to their voices, they're we've all been in airplanes. It's kind of not the quietest environment sometimes. So there might be background noise, which is very common to have in voice recorder. But since they have a lot of other tools at their disposal in terms of all the position switches, where people's hand or what they were manipulating the controls, they can easily kind of figure out who's doing what exactly and who said what at what time, because it'll tell you.
Yeah. So then I want to go to the next question, but I would really want to get back our focus into onto the part where I want to know how the community feels about this. How is it affecting them? The accident happened, all these things will come out, but what is happening in their minds? I mean, I know what's happening in my mind. It definitely is a concern, but it may be different for different people. So it has to. They have to tell. I'm more interested in finding that out. What is happening? So, what is your other question that you had, Tanay, or comments?
Sure. So we have another question from Arun Marar.
Hmm.
Uh, Akshat, have a curious question. What really happened to the Malaysian Airlines flight, I'm guessing, that disappeared into the oceans and no one had found the flight?
We
Yeah,
are. We are. 1 second, because this will take us. Yes, I would
yeah.
just spend too
I
much time.
won't spend too much time on that speculation because
Yeah.
we never have a conclusion, so it's purely
It
speculative.
affects it affects our things
Yeah.
thinking about that, but right now it is a little bit.
But just taking it up a level in kind of the thought process, I think I understand the concept of the question. Is aircraft are so advanced, they're so technologically cutting edge. How can we lose one?
Yeah.
Um, Now, aircraft are very advanced in the mathematics and the aerodynamics and things like that, but oftentimes technologies that we have in our day to day, like our phones and our connectivity, they're far beyond what we can put in an airplane, exactly for what I said before, because of certification. We need to prove technologies for a long time to show that they're very reliable and make them robust and things like that. So aviation won't adopt the technologies like maybe your computer industry or tech industry will as quickly. So while aircraft are very advanced and cutting edge, and we do adopt new technologies in our airplanes, me included, it just takes some time to get to the level of robustness and reliability that we require to be put on an airplane.
Yeah. Yes. So sorry, Arun, we cannot dwell too much into it at this time because we are, as we put in our earlier introduction, we want to focus on this part of, segment of this industry
Yeah.
thing.
There's another question and a few responses. Do you want me to
Yeah,
read
yeah,
them
yeah.
out?
Go ahead.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
So we have a question from Charu Hirve.
Hmm.
How does the recent Air India flight crash in Ahmedabad affect your choice of airline for your travel to India?
Mine?
I
You
guess to
go.
both of
Yeah.
you.
I feel concerned, yes. I will just kind of state that I do feel concerned about it.
Mhm.
I have, if you refer to my writings before, and I was in this, as I said, involved in this decision-making thing, at least I was in the hearing. And I did find some of the quality issues with the equipment inside the cabin. We don't know outside or anything, right? That I wrote, I documented that in the article, and I really felt a little bit concerned about that. And I expressed my concern in that publication. Both the times I have done that service level. But yes, I do feel impacted by that. Other comments, Tanay?
Sure. We also have a few more responses to your original question.
Yeah, please.
Uh,
Yeah.
Let me just read them out to you.
Mhm.
Uh, Vinita Prasad Kumar says that processes, procedures, and people, everything needs to be looked at. If many root causes point to human error, there has to be shortcomings in the processes. And Krishna Kumari Reddy says that the accident made me think twice before I want to travel in Air India.
Yes, I mean, I cannot say anything about that. It's very valid. All these things affect us. Yes,
Yeah,
Akshat.
for processes, procedures, and people, and scrutinizing those things,
Mm,
the industry will do that. No one in my industry has ever blown off kind of an issue and an incident. We take it very seriously, and we will change processes, procedures, and people or training of those people in accordance. Now, in any big incident like this, it's very rarely one thing that causes it. Very rarely it can happen, but it's very rare. So typically it's a combination of processes, procedure, and people.
mm,
So the oftentimes after the investigation is concluded, all things will be addressed, and sometimes they will be changed, or at least some advice given on how to do things to prevent in the future. So those things happen a lot. And then for the kind of feeling of flying, to be honest, I fly a lot for my career.
mm.
I fly, I think in my peak, I was flying 80, more than 1 to 2 flights a week. I actually just pick airlines based off of the service inside because I have a really deep understanding of the aircraft itself. And I do trust those procedures. I do trust those things. I pick the airline at the end of the day on who gives me the best service inside because that's all I'm very concerned about.
You know, the first comment that you made, I have heard that from various other industry experts also, and they describe it very figuratively. They said that if something bad to happen, there are, think about them as a multiple layers of Swiss cheese, and you cut those layers and then line them up, and one hole has to line up in all. Look at the probability of that, that something can pass through in there's a hole exactly the same place in all the slices. If that happens, then something can happen. So it's a lot of things that has to go wrong to have something happen. It is never a single simple cause ever. So Swiss cheese holes have to line up. That's what they say actually. So anyway, back to you, Tanay. Is anything, any comment on what we said earlier?
No, I think a few people have been thanking you, both of you, for having this conversation and helping shed light on this. As we all know, this is something that is top of mind for a lot of people flying home or who have families back home and fly regularly. Vandana has a question as well.
Mhm.
With so much speculation and conjecture swirling in the media, what are the legitimate sources of facts we can go to find information?
Good question.
Yeah.
That it's when researching, actually, in my experience for this specific incident, I saw a lot of media outlets representing the crash in their own way. However, there is one source, and if you're curious, you should go to and only one source, which is the Ministry of Civil Aviation, and specifically their Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau. Most often, the other sources are kind of speculative, and I personally don't like fostering that kind of process in my industry when we start speculating for things. So definitely try, it's okay to read many different sources, but the Ministry of Civil Aviation is going to have the final say in this. And again, they have the final say with NTSB, FAA, Boeing, and GE advisors. So when the final report comes out, it should be a very thorough, robust, and very, very high credibility report.
Yeah. So, thinking about this so far and hearing the comments and all, I understand that there are concerns now. And if you, there are two reasons one can have concern about. One is that, or not have, is that you don't, you are, everything is good. You get good reports, everything is going good, so you're not concerned. But there could be another reason for not being concerned when you're stepping into the aircraft is that you don't know anything. You are ignorant of the things going on. And that is also possible with many people, that they are not paying attention to this part of it. Occasionally some thing happens and that is very exceptional and some name pops up, so people start focusing on that. And but people like us, we watch, so we have a little bit more in-depth information. And in that context, I want to mention, and actually I want to ask you, Akshat,
Mhm.
that since this crash, DGCA, Director General of Civil Aviation, which is equivalent of FAA, Federal Aviation Administration of United States. They are the regulatory agency, by the way, okay? DGCA in India, FAA in America. DGCA immediately came up with few recommendations and things just to make sure that certain things are checked. So, are you knowledgeable about any such thing? Just briefly, because we don't want to go in detail of these technical things. But did they? My reason I'm asking this question is that for people to be a little bit reassured that okay, they are taken care of. Is there any action so far based on what they knew?
Yeah, right away after the incident, um, they required all the switches on Air India's 787 and 737 fleet to be checked. This was in response to what we call in the US SAIB. It stands for Special Airworthiness Information Bulletin, which came out in 2018, saying that these switches could
Oh,
have a
okay.
problem with the mechanism to lock them in a position. I was mentioning earlier that it has a safety mechanism where you have to do an action to complete the switch motion. There could have been an issue. So Air India actually released a statement July 22nd and said that they had completed the investigation on their entire fleet of affected airplanes, so only Boeing 787 and 737s, and they found no issue
Okay,
with
so
the switch. And I want to kind of continue that answer a little bit in a way by saying still when things like this happen, it's very we get shaken with the industry and safety and we get very concerned. But air travel is still by far the safest mode of transportation on the planet. You have
it
about
is.
1 in 11 million chances of being in an incident in aviation, in commercial aviation. You have about 1 in 2,000 chances of being in an automobile crash. So the reason that statistic exists is because we take these very seriously. And when these reports come out, we look at it thoroughly, all avenues, people, persons, land, procedures, the maintenance, everything, and then we come out with recommendations. And that's how we ensure the safety of this industry.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else other than this inspection that happened here, or?
So there's been things that the DGCA has done ongoing in terms of
Usual
regulatory
things.
oversight,
Usual things, yeah.
which is pretty common. I think after any incident like this happens, obviously there's going to be a pause and kind of what we call in the US a safety stand down. It's meant when you address even simple things like a mechanic leaves a tool in an engine by accident and then it causes damage. We stop everything and then we address it and we say, okay, what happened? Why did it happen? Do we need training? Is there a rule that wasn't followed? Is there no rule? And we address it very seriously. So they did that. I think they call it a safety pause in India. They did that after this incident. The DGCA, I think, has kind of kept up with their regulatory oversight. They addressed some issues that happened with Air India, but as far as I could research, they did their checks. They found some non-conformities. They find it, they addressed it, they recommended actions, and they were followed. But the most
So
important,
that's a good news in the sense that there is a regulatory agency which is functioning, which
yeah,
is
I think they're functioning. Yeah,
job is doing its job in pointing out that hey, if there is some requirement somewhere and the negligence somewhere, then it is being. Now, at the same time, it also says that why were they found? But then, yeah,
yeah,
of course, that the individual airline has to address that, and Air India here has had some problems in the past about this, but
yeah.
DGC has been doing a pretty good role about that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think they're doing their job and they're taking it seriously. Also, they're taking it seriously because there's a lot of eyes on India, and there has been because their industry has been growing very quickly. Their civil aviation industry is growing at the most rapid rate in the world. I'm sorry, and it has been for some time. So the DGCA has to keep up, and I hope they realize that they have to keep up and they have to do it, I guess, with integrity and stay on top of it.
Yeah.
Just wanted to flag that it's 7:45, so we're actually overtime. I know we started late, but it's been 40 minutes. So I think we've covered most of the questions in the chat. There's a lot of comments about how a lot of them are agreeing with what Akshat is saying. The shortest travel time is the way I decide on airline, and that's where Air India wins. That
Yeah.
is a matter of convenience for a lot of people.
That's correct.
And again, a lot of people just stating that I would rather be in an aircraft than sharing the highway with a self-driving car. The statistics that you shared, Akshat, are still, they're resonating with a lot of people because from a statistical perspective, it is incredible how few accidents we do have. But yeah, I think we've covered a lot of ground during this session. So if you want to wrap it up, Vijay.
Yes. So thank you, Tanay, for takeaways. So we had some conversation, and my takeaway from this is that uh, while the regulatory agency is working fine in this, it is still the consumer sees that the carrier, whether it is following or not, and it has caused concern in the minds of the people. Yes, it has in mind too. That is the regular is the are the regulations being strictly followed or not? So this thing was very tragic, but it did kind of flip that. Although Akshat and I, we keep an eye on the industry. So when this similar some certain things happen that don't go out in open in public, we are aware of that actually, because we read the specific journals and watch the specific things. So they were happening, but it is really sad that this tragic thing happened. And my takeaway, as I said, is that that concern is there, and we would like people to hear us and make whatever efforts they can to assure that they are following the processes and they are helping us avail this. This is a very important flight for us, honestly, this direct flight. It really helps us immensely, and I want to see that confidence restored. So thank you so much, Tanay. You're right. We are done, gentlemen. If nothing else is there, I think that's good. Thank you so much to everybody.
Thank you. I hope it helped.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Vijay and Akshat, for this wonderful chat. I think it helped clear up a lot of questions and reservations that people have, but also resonated with a lot of people
Sure.
because this is a sort of troubling incident. Thank you to everyone who joined. We will be having more chat chats in the future. Please get in touch with us. Tell us how you like this, what other topics you want us to cover in future live sessions like these, and stay in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night or good
Yeah.
morning.